Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the strange blue planet through the main screen. His long fingers moved across the control panel as he checked the readings again. After 300 years of space travel, he had never seen anything like this world. The planet was covered in water and had white clouds moving across its surface. But what worried him most were the energy readings coming from the third planet in this system. "Dr. Nixara, what do your scans show?" Veltar asked the scientist standing next to him. The doctor was tall and thin like all Altruians, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She had been studying unknown species for most of her life. "Captain, the readings are very strange," Dr. Nixara said, her voice soft but worried. "This planet shows signs of a species that has nuclear weapons, but they also have what looks like space travel. Most species we find either have one or the other, not both." Veltar nodded slowly. In all his years serving the Galactic Confederation, he had learned that new species usually followed the same path. They would develop space travel first, then join the Confederation, and then learn about advanced weapons in a safe way. But this species seemed different. "Send the standard peaceful message," Veltar ordered. "Use the translation protocol and tell them we come in peace." Far below on the blue planet, in a military base hidden deep underground, alarms began to ring. Commander Taemin jumped up from his chair and ran to the main control room. He was a short, strong man with dark hair and serious eyes. As the captain of Earth's newest warship, he had trained for this moment his whole life, but he never thought it would really happen. "Sir, we have an unknown ship near Jupiter," Lieutenant Kor reported. She was young and smart, one of the best communication officers in the Earth Defense Fleet. "The ship is huge, maybe 10 times bigger than our largest vessel. Are they sending any messages?" Taemin asked, his hand moving to the red button that would call all Earth forces to battle. "Yes, sir, but it's in a language we don't know. The computer is trying to translate it now," Corey said, her fingers flying over her keyboard. On the alien ship, Veltar waited for an answer. The Confederation had rules about first contact. They would wait exactly 1 standard day for a response. If the new species was peaceful, they would talk. If they were aggressive, the Confederation would leave and mark the system as dangerous. "Captain, we're getting a response," his communication officer said. "But it's very different from what we usually receive." The message that came back was short and direct. "Unknown vessel. This is Earth Defense Command. State your purpose and maintain your current position. Any movement toward our planet will be seen as an attack." Veltar was surprised. Most new species were either very afraid or very excited to meet the Confederation. These humans seemed ready to fight instead. "Send them our standard greeting," Veltar ordered. "Tell them we are from the Galactic Confederation, and we want to meet them in peace." Back on Earth, Commander Taemin read the alien message with growing worry. His military training told him not to trust anyone who showed up without warning, especially someone with such a big ship. "Lieutenant Kor, send a message to Admiral Park. Tell him we have first contact and request immediate support," Taemin said. "Also, get the Soul's Pride ready for launch." The Soul's Pride was Earth's most advanced warship. It was fast, heavily armed, and had the best crew in the fleet. Taemin had been its captain for 3 years, and his crew trusted him completely. "Sir, the aliens want to meet near Jupiter's moons," Kor reported. "They say it's a neutral place for talking." Taemin thought about this. Jupiter was far from Earth, which was good. If something went wrong, the fight would happen far from home, but it was also far from help if they needed it. "Tell them we agree," Taemin decided, "but we're bringing an escort." 3 days later, both ships met in space near Jupiter's largest moon. The alien ship was beautiful and strange, with smooth curves and lights that changed color. The Soul's Pride looked much different, with sharp angles and gray metal armor. On the alien ship, Dr. Nixara watched the human vessel with interest. "Captain, look at their ship design. It's built for war, not exploration. See how thick the armor is? And look at all those weapon ports." Veltar was beginning to understand that these humans might be very different from other species they had met. On the Soul's Pride, Corporal Bora checked her equipment one more time. She was a small woman with quick hands and a sharp mind. Her job was explosives and breaching, which meant she could blow up doors or walls to get her team inside enemy ships. Right now, she was preparing for a standard boarding inspection, something Earth forces always did when meeting unknown ships. Remember, Commander Taman told his crew, we follow Earth protocols. We inspect their ship, they inspect ours. If they try anything suspicious, we respond with full force. The problem was that Earth protocols were very different from Confederation protocols. When the aliens sent a small shuttle with 3 unarmed diplomats, they expected the humans to do the same. Instead, they saw a heavily armed shuttle with 12 soldiers in combat armor approaching their ship. Captain, Dr. Nixara called out in alarm, they're sending warriors, not diplomats. Veltar quickly sent a message to the human ship. We sent peaceful representatives. Why do you send soldiers? Commander Taman was confused by the alien message. Lieutenant Kor, tell them this is standard procedure. We always send security teams for first meetings. When Corporal Bora and her team boarded the alien ship, they followed their training exactly. They spread out to secure the area, checked for weapons, and set up their equipment. To them, this was normal and safe. To the aliens, it looked like an invasion. They're placing explosive devices, one of the alien crew members shouted in panic. The explosives Bora was setting up were just breaching charges, meant to blow open doors in an emergency, but the aliens didn't know that. They saw armed soldiers putting bombs on their ship. This is an act of war, Dr. Nixara said, her voice shaking with fear and anger. In the confusion that followed, someone bumped into Bora as she was setting up the charges. Her hand slipped, and she accidentally triggered one of the small explosives. The blast was small, but it happened inside the alien ship's ceremonial meeting room, a place that was sacred to their culture. The explosion damaged ancient symbols on the walls and destroyed a table that had been used for peace talks for over 1,000 years. Veltar stared at the damage in shock. In all the history of the Confederation, no one had ever damaged a ceremonial meeting place. It was the worst possible insult, like attacking a church or hospital. Get off our ship, Veltar shouted, his calm diplomatic manner completely gone. You are barbarians. You have no honor. Commander Taman was just as confused and angry. His people had been trying to follow proper procedures, and now the aliens were calling them names and ordering them to leave. Both sides retreated to their ships, each convinced that the other was dangerous and hostile. What should have been a peaceful first contact had turned into a disaster that would soon lead to war. As the alien ship prepared to leave, Dr. Nixara sent one final message to Earth. The Galactic Confederation will hear of this. You have broken the most sacred laws of civilized warfare. Prepare for consequences. Commander Taman watched the alien ship disappear into the darkness of space. He had no idea what those consequences might be, but he knew Earth needed to get ready for whatever was coming next. Admiral Zephlon stood in the Great Council chamber of the Confederation homeworld, his forearms crossed in anger. He was old, even by alien standards, and had commanded fleets for longer than humans had been flying in space. His golden skin seemed to glow under the chamber's lights as he spoke to the assembled leaders. The species on the third planet are dangerous, he said, his voice deep and serious. They attack without warning, damage sacred places, and show no respect for the laws of war. We must respond with force. The council members, representing dozens of different alien species, listened carefully. Some had tentacles instead of arms, others had fur or scales, but all of them looked worried. For over 1,000 years, the Confederation had kept peace in the galaxy by following strict rules about how civilized species should behave. Dr. Nixara stepped forward to give her report. She still felt shaken by what had happened on the human ship. The humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They seem to be natural warriors, evolved on a planet that made them aggressive and dangerous. On Earth, in a secure meeting room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, military leaders from every nation sat around a large table. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of air recycling systems. Everyone was reading the same report about humanity's first contact with aliens. Dr. So Young, Earth's top expert on alien life, finished explaining what they knew about the Confederation She was a calm woman with gray hair and tired eyes, someone who had spent years studying the possibility of meeting other intelligent species. From what we can understand, she said, these aliens have very specific rules about how wars should be fought. They seem to think fighting should be fair and organized like a sport. Major Hyunwoo, the commander of Earth's Special Forces, laughed without humor. A sport? War isn't a sport. War is about survival. He was a big man with scars on his hands and face from years of fighting. His job was to train soldiers for the worst possible situations, and he was very good at it. General Kim, the oldest person in the room, looked at the alien rules of war that Dr. So Young had translated. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. They want us to announce our attacks 3 days before we make them? That's correct, Dr. So Young said. They also want fights to happen only in specific areas that both sides agree on, and they want both sides to use similar weapons so the fight is fair. Private Jiwon, who was taking notes in the corner, raised her hand. She was young and quiet, but she was also the best sniper in the Earth Defense Force. What about camouflage? Do they allow hiding? Dr. So Young shook her head. No. They consider hiding to be dishonorable. All soldiers are supposed to wear bright uniforms so everyone can see them clearly. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Major Hyunwoo spoke up. These aliens have never fought a real war. They've been playing war games for so long they forgot what actual fighting is about. We need to be careful, Dr. So Young warned. They have technology that's hundreds of years ahead of ours. Their ships are faster, and their weapons are more powerful. But they don't know how to use them properly, said Captain Dongsik, a Navy officer who had been studying the alien ship designs. Look at their battle formation. They line up their ships in neat rows, just like old sailing ships used to do. Any one of our submarines could attack them from below and they'd never see it coming. Dr. So Young felt worried about where this conversation was going. We should try to make peace with them. Maybe we can explain that our ways are different, but not evil. They're bringing a war fleet, Major Hyunwoo said, pointing to the intelligence report. Admiral Zeflon is coming with 50 ships. That's not a peace mission. 3 weeks later, Admiral Zeflon's fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. The ships were magnificent, each one a work of art with flowing lines and beautiful colors. They moved in perfect formation, like dancers in space. On his flagship, Admiral Zeflon reviewed the battle plan one more time. According to Confederation law, he would send a message to the humans announcing his intention to attack. He would give them exactly 72 standard hours to prepare their forces. Then both fleets would meet in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter for an honorable battle. Communications officer, Admiral Zeflon commanded, send the formal challenge to the human world. The message was long and detailed, written in the ancient style that the Confederation had used for centuries. It explained exactly when and where the battle would take place, what weapons could be used, and how the humans should arrange their ships for fair combat. On Earth, General Park read the alien message and started laughing. He was the head of all Earth's military forces, a smart man who had fought in 3 different wars. They want us to line up our ships so they can shoot at us fairly, and they're giving us 3 days to get ready? What do we do? Asked Admiral Chen, who commanded Earth's Space Fleet. We follow our own rules, General Park said. Major Hyunwoo, I want your teams ready to move in 6 hours, not 72. Major Hyunwoo smiled for the first time in weeks. Yes, sir. What about the battle location? Forget their asteroid belt, General Park said. We'll hit them where they don't expect it. While Admiral Zeflon waited patiently for the humans to arrive at the designated battle area, Major Hyunwoo's special forces were already moving. They used small, fast ships that were painted black to hide in space. Instead of going to the asteroid belt, they headed straight for the alien fleet. Private Jiwon was on the first attack ship, checking her rifle for the 10th time. The weapon was designed to work in space, with special ammunition that could pierce alien armor. Next to her, Sergeant Minho was preparing electronic warfare equipment that could disrupt alien communications. Remember, Major Hyunwoo said over the radio, we hit fast and disappear. Don't try to fight their big ships directly. target their engines, their communications, their supply vessels. The attack began at 0300 Earth time, when most of the alien fleet was resting. The Confederation had rules about when battles could start, so they weren't expecting trouble during their sleep period. The first sign Admiral Zeflon had that something was wrong was when 3 of his supply ships exploded simultaneously. Then, the communications went dead. Then his flagship shook as something hit it from a direction where no human ships were supposed to be. "Report," Admiral Zeflon shouted, but half his bridge crew couldn't answer because their equipment wasn't working. "Sir, we're under attack," his tactical officer finally managed to say. "But the humans aren't where they're supposed to be." Private Jiwan had managed to get close enough to the alien flagship to take shots at specific targets. Her rifle could punch through the alien hull material, and she was aiming for what looked like sensor equipment. Every shot she took blinded the aliens a little more. "This is impossible," Admiral Zeflon said, watching his perfectly organized fleet fall into chaos. "They can't attack before the designated time, they can't use stealth technology, they can't target non-combat vessels." But the humans were doing all of those things. Major Hyunwoo's teams hit the alien fleet from 6 different directions at once. They used explosives, electronic weapons, and surprise attacks. In 30 minutes, they had damaged or destroyed a third of the Confederation ships without losing a single human vessel. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the attack stopped. The human ships disappeared back into the darkness of space, leaving the alien fleet confused and hurt. Admiral Zeflon stared at the damage reports in disbelief. His beautiful, organized fleet looked like it had been hit by a storm. "They broke every rule of civilized warfare," he said quietly. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from the human planet." The message was short and simple. "Surrender now, or we will continue attacking until your fleet is completely destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." Admiral Zeflon realized that everything he thought he knew about warfare was wrong. These humans didn't fight like civilized beings. They fought like wild animals, using every dirty trick they could think of. But they were also much more dangerous than any enemy the Confederation had ever faced, and they were just getting started. Admiral Zeflon refused to surrender. In his mind, the humans had cheated, and cheaters could not be allowed to win. He sent an angry message back to Earth, demanding that they fight properly according to Confederation rules. "We will not surrender to barbarians," his message said. "Meet us in honorable combat, or be marked as cowards throughout the galaxy." On Earth, General Myung-soo read the alien response while drinking his morning coffee. He was a thin man with gray hair who had spent 40 years studying military strategy. Unlike many soldiers, he preferred to win battles with clever plans instead of big guns. "They still don't understand," he said to his staff. "They think this is some kind of game with rules." Specialist Da-un, the youngest person in the room, raised her hand. She was only 22 years old, but she was a genius with computers and electronics. "Sir, I've been studying their communication systems. They send everything in the clear with no encryption. It's like they trust everyone, to be honest." "Can you break into their network?" General Myung-soo asked. "Already done, sir," Da-un said with a small smile. "I can read their messages, mess. With their computers, even control some of their ship systems if I get close enough." Captain Jin Ho, the pilot of Earth's newest stealth fighter, laughed. "This is going to be easier than we thought. They can't see us coming. They can't hide their plans, and they line up their ships like targets at a shooting range." "Don't get overconfident," General Myung-soo warned. "Their weapons are still more powerful than ours. One direct hit from their main guns could destroy any of our ships." "Then we don't let them hit us," Captain Jin Ho said. War Prime Kleton was the Confederation's greatest military hero. He had won more honor duels than any warrior in history, and his name was known throughout the galaxy. When Admiral Zeflon called for help, the Council sent Kleton to Earth with additional ships and orders to restore Confederation honor. Kleton was massive, even for his species. He stood 3 meters tall and had skin like stone. His 4 arms could each lift a grown human, and his voice could be heard across a battlefield. He had never lost a fight, and he didn't plan to start now. "These humans will learn respect," Klethan announced to his warriors. We will show them how civilized beings conduct warfare. The War Prime's plan was simple and traditional. He would challenge the strongest human warrior to single combat. When he won, as he always did, the humans would have to surrender according to ancient law. It was how the Confederation had solved disputes for over 1,000 years. But the humans had no intention of following ancient law. General Myung-Soo looked at the alien challenge and shook his head. They want to send their best warrior to fight our best warrior, one-on-one, with no weapons except swords. That's crazy, said Colonel Huna, the commander of Earth's Marine Forces. Why would we agree to that? Because while they're waiting for their honor duel, General Myung-Soo said, we're going to destroy their entire fleet. The plan General Myung-Soo created was complex and brutal. While War Prime Klethan waited for a human champion to meet him in single combat, Earth forces would attack the alien fleet from 17 different directions at once. Captain Jin-Ho would lead the stealth fighters in strikes against alien command ships. Specialist Da-Yun would use electronic warfare to blind their sensors and disrupt their communications. Colonel Yuna's Marines would board alien vessels using small, fast ships that could cut through alien hulls. And Private Jiwan would target alien officers with precision sniper fire from impossible distances. What about their honor duel? Asked Major Dong-wook, who was studying the alien challenge. Send someone, General Myung-Soo said. But make sure they're wearing full combat armor and carrying modern weapons. If the aliens want to fight with swords, that's their choice. War Prime Klethan waited in the designated combat area, a small asteroid that had been cleared of debris. He wore traditional armor and carried a ceremonial sword that had been in his family for generations. According to Confederation law, the human champion should arrive within 1 standard hour. Instead of 1 human, 3 ships arrived. Instead of a single warrior with a sword, the ships carried 50 Marines with assault rifles, grenade launchers, and portable missile systems. This is not honorable combat, Klethan roared over his communicator. Send 1 warrior to face me. The human response came from Sergeant Hai-Jin, the Marine team leader. You can surrender now, or we can do this the hard way. Klethan had never been so insulted in his life. He charged toward the human ships, swinging his ancient sword and shouting war cries that had terrified enemies for centuries. The Marines opened fire with everything they had. 50 automatic weapons, 10 grenade launchers, and 5 missile systems all fired at once. The barrage was so intense that the small asteroid shook from the explosions. When the smoke cleared, War Prime Klethan was still standing, protected by personal shields that could stop most weapons. But his armor was damaged, his sword was broken, and he was starting to understand that humans didn't care about fair fights. Impossible, he said, looking at the destroyed ground around him. You use projectile weapons. You attack in groups. You show no honor. We show results, Sergeant Hai-Jin replied, and ordered his team to fire again. While the War Prime was learning about human tactics the hard way, the rest of General Myung-Soo's plan was already in motion. Captain Jin-Ho's stealth fighters hit the alien fleet's command ships just as the aliens were preparing for the honor duel. Target the bridges, Jin-Ho ordered his squadron. Take out their command structure first. The alien ships were beautiful and powerful, but they were designed for honorable combat between equals. They had never faced enemies who attacked from stealth, targeted specific parts of ships, or used tactics designed to cause maximum confusion. Jin-Ho's fighters were small and fast, painted black and equipped with jamming devices that made them almost invisible to alien sensors. They flew through the alien formation like angry wasps, firing missiles at communication arrays and engine systems. Where are they? Admiral Zeflon shouted as his flagship shook from another impact. Our sensors show nothing. Specialist Da-Un was sitting in a command center on Earth, but her electronic attacks were causing chaos throughout the alien fleet. She had broken into their computer systems and was sending false orders, erasing navigation data, and overloading their weapon systems. Their security is terrible, she reported to General Myung-Soo. It's like they never thought anyone would try to hack them. Can you take control of any of their ships? The general asked. Already working on it, Da-Un said, her fingers flying over her keyboard. I think I can turn their automated defense systems against them. A few minutes later, some of the alien ships began firing at each other as their computer systems received false target information. The neat organized formation that Admiral Zephlon was so proud of turned into chaos as ships tried to avoid being shot by their own allies. Private G1 was aboard a small stealth ship that had gotten close to the alien flagship. Her job was to target alien officers and commanders, removing the enemy's leadership during the battle. Through her rifle scope, she could see Admiral Zephlon on his bridge, trying to restore order to his fleet. The alien was tall and elegant, wearing a beautiful uniform covered in medals and decorations. G1 took careful aim and fired. Her bullet punched through the alien ship's hull and hit Admiral Zephlon in the shoulder, spinning him around and knocking him to the ground. The shot wasn't meant to kill, just to wound and frighten. The effect on the alien crew was immediate. They had never seen their admiral injured before. Some of them panicked and ran from their posts. Others tried to help their wounded leader instead of fighting the battle. "The admiral is down," someone shouted over the alien communication system. "We need medical help." Colonel Yuna's Marines were using a different approach. Instead of trying to destroy alien ships, they were boarding them and taking control from the inside. Their small attack craft could cut through alien hulls in seconds, and the Marines inside were equipped for close combat in space. "Remember," Colonel Yuna told her troops, "these aliens have never fought boarding actions before. They don't know how to defend their own ships." She was right. When the Marines cut through the hull of an alien cruiser, they found the corridors empty except for a few confused crew members who didn't even carry weapons. The aliens had never imagined that enemies might actually come inside their ships during a battle. Within an hour, Colonel Yuna's Marines had captured 5 alien vessels and were using their own weapons against the rest of the fleet. War Prime. Klethan finally managed to reach the human Marines on the asteroid, but by then he was exhausted and his shields were failing. When he swung his broken sword at Sergeant Heijin, the Marine simply shot him with a stun weapon that dropped the massive alien like a stone. "Is that it?" Sergeant Heijin asked, looking down at the unconscious War Prime. "That's their greatest, warrior." Admiral Zephlon, bleeding from his shoulder wound and watching his fleet fall apart around him, finally began to understand what Dr. Nixara had tried to tell him. These humans weren't just barbaric. They were a completely different kind of species, one that had evolved to fight without rules, without honor, and without mercy. Ambassador Yujin had spent her entire career trying to prevent wars. She was a small woman with kind eyes who spoke 7 languages and had helped solve conflicts on dozens of planets. But as she watched the reports coming in from the battle, near Earth, she felt more helpless than ever before. "This is getting out of control," she said to Dr. Hanna, the military psychologist who was studying the alien prisoners. "Both sides think the other is evil. If we don't find a way to make peace soon, this war could destroy both species." Dr. Hanna nodded while looking at her notes. She had been interviewing captured alien soldiers for 3 days, trying to understand how their minds worked. "The aliens aren't evil," she said. "They're just completely different from us. They evolved on worlds where fighting was rare, so they made it into a ceremony instead of a survival skill. And they think we're monsters because we fight to win, instead of fighting to look good," Yujin said. Meanwhile, on the Confederation homeworld, Elder Morden was having the same conversation with the ruling council. He was ancient even by alien standards, with pale skin and eyes that had seen centuries of galactic history. Unlike the younger leaders who wanted to send more ships to fight the humans, Morden was asking different questions. "We need to understand why these humans fight the way they do," he told the council. "Are they evil or are they simply different?" "They attack without warning," said Council Leader Vexara. "They target non-combatants. They show no mercy to defeated enemies. How is that not evil?" "Perhaps," Elder Morden said carefully, "they learned to fight that way because their world taught them that mercy means death." Back near Earth, the war was getting worse every day. Admiral Zephlon had received reinforcements from across the galaxy, bringing his fleet up to over 200 ships. But the humans kept finding new ways to attack that the aliens had never seen before. Commander Wu Jin was leading a new type of mission that would have been impossible for any other species to imagine. His Marines were using captured alien ships to attack other alien ships, making it look like the Confederation fleet was fighting itself. "This is brilliant," he told his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sora, as they prepared to board another alien vessel. "They trust their own ships so much that they don't even check who's flying them." The plan was working perfectly. Commander Wu Jin's team would capture an alien ship, learn how to operate it, then use it to get close to other alien vessels. When the aliens saw one of their own ships approaching, they assumed it was friendly and let it get close enough for the Marines to board. Lieutenant Sora was getting worried about how well their tactics worked. "Sir, don't you think we're being too brutal? Some of these aliens seem genuinely confused about why we're fighting." "Our job is to protect Earth," Commander Wu Jin replied. "If they wanted a gentle war, they shouldn't have brought 200 ships to our home system." On one of the captured alien ships, Dr. Hana was interviewing War Prime Klethan, who had finally woken up from the stun weapon. The massive alien was chained to a bed in the ship's medical bay, his stone-like skin covered in bandages. "Why do you fight without honor?" Klethan asked her. His voice was weak but still angry. "Why do you attack from shadows like cowards?" "Because our world taught us that honor doesn't matter if you're dead," Dr. Hana replied. "Tell me about your home planet. What was it like?" Klethan seemed surprised by the question. "My world? It was peaceful, beautiful. We had everything we needed. Fighting was rare, and when it happened, we made sure it was fair." "Earth wasn't like that," Dr. Hana said. "On Earth, everything tried to kill us. Other animals, diseases, weather, even the plants. We learned to fight by fighting, for our lives every single day." Klethan was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, "Your entire species grew up fighting for survival?" "For millions of years," Dr. Hana confirmed. "We didn't develop honor codes because we couldn't afford them. Every fight was life or death." Elder Mordun was having a similar conversation with the Confederation Council. He had been studying human tactics and was beginning to see a pattern that others had missed. "Look at their methods," he said, projecting images of human attacks on a large screen. "Every technique is designed not just to win, but to make sure the enemy cannot fight back. They don't just defeat their opponents, they eliminate them completely." "Exactly," Council Leader Vexara said. "They're trying to commit genocide." "No," Elder Mordun said quietly. "They're trying to survive. On their world, an enemy who could fight again tomorrow was an enemy who could kill you tomorrow. So they learned to make sure their enemies couldn't fight again." The war reached a turning point when Specialist Da-Un managed to break into the aliens' main communication network. She discovered something that changed everything. The Confederation wasn't just sending ships to fight humans. They were preparing to destroy Earth completely. "General Myung-Soo," she reported, her voice shaking. "They have planet-killer weapons. Huge ships that can crack a world in half. They're planning to use them if they can't defeat us in regular combat." General Myung-Soo felt cold as he read Da-Un's report. The aliens seemed peaceful and honorable, but when pushed too far, they were willing to commit genocide just like any other species. "How long until those ships arrive?" he asked. 3 weeks, Da-Un said. "Maybe less." "Then we end this war in 2 weeks," the general decided. "Commander Wu Jin, I want you to capture Admiral Zeflon alive." "Dr. Hana, I need you to find a way to talk to their leaders. Ambassador Yu Jin, prepare for the most important negotiation of your life." Commander Wu Jin's mission to capture Admiral Zeflon was the most dangerous operation Earth forces had attempted. The alien admiral was on his flagship, surrounded by 50 other ships and protected by the best warriors the Confederation had. But Wu Jin had learned to think like the aliens. Instead of attacking with force, he used their own rules against them. "We challenge Admiral Zeflon to single combat," he announced over the communication system. "Send your champion to face our champion." The aliens were confused. After weeks of brutal rule-breaking warfare, why were the humans suddenly asking for an honorable duel? Admiral Zeflon, his shoulder still healing from Private Jiwan's sniper shot, was suspicious, but curious. "What are your terms?" he asked. "Simple," Commander Wu Jin replied. "Our best warrior against yours. If we win, you surrender your fleet. If you win, we surrender Earth. It was exactly the kind of offer that Confederation honor demanded they accept. Admiral Zeflon couldn't refuse without looking like a coward in front of his entire fleet. Agreed, he said. Send your champion. What Admiral Zeflon didn't know was that Commander Wu Jin wasn't planning to fight fairly. When the alien champion arrived for the duel, he found himself facing not one human, but a small army of Marines with advanced weapons. This is dishonor, the alien champion protested. This is war, Commander Wu Jin replied. Surrender, or we'll demonstrate more human tactics. The alien champion, surrounded and outgunned, had no choice but to give up. By the rules of the challenge, Admiral Zeflon now had to surrender his entire fleet. But instead of taking the alien ships, Commander Wu Jin made a different offer. We don't want your surrender, he said to the captured admiral. We want to talk. Admiral Zeflon was completely confused. You won. By our laws, my fleet is yours. Why don't you take it? Because, Commander Wu Jin said, someone much smarter than me thinks there might be a way to end this war without destroying both our species. Dr. Hana had spent days preparing for this moment. She had learned enough about alien psychology to understand what they needed to hear. When she finally spoke to Admiral Zeflon face to face, she chose her words very carefully. Your people fight with honor because your worlds taught you that fighting should be beautiful and fair, she said. Our people fight to survive because our world taught us that dead heroes don't protect anyone. Admiral Zeflon listened without interrupting. But both of our people fight to protect what they love. Dr. Hana continued. Maybe that's enough to build peace on. For the first time since the war began, Admiral Zeflon began to think that these humans might not be monsters after all. They were just soldiers doing what soldiers do, protecting their home by any means necessary. What do you propose? He asked. A meeting, Dr. Hana said. Your wisest leaders, and our wisest leaders. Not to surrender, but to understand. Elder Morden, watching from the Confederation homeworld, felt hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to end this war without destroying two entire civilizations. But first, they had to convince their own people that the enemy might not be evil after all. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun had earned his rank by winning battles that everyone said were impossible to win. He was tall and calm, with gray hair and intelligent eyes that never missed anything. When the Confederation Council finally agreed to peace talks, they demanded that Earth's highest military leader attend the meeting. Are you sure about this plan? Asked Captain Subin, who would be commanding the escort ships. She was young but experienced, one of the few human officers who had actually spoken with alien prisoners and learned to respect them. It's the only way, Admiral Dong Hyun replied. If we want real peace, both sides need to understand that the other isn't evil, just different. The meeting was planned for neutral space, halfway between Earth and the nearest Confederation world. But Admiral Dong Hyun had a secret plan that even his own officers didn't know about. Elder Morden arrived at the meeting place with only 3 ships, as agreed. The old alien had convinced the Confederation Council to give peace one final chance, before sending the planet-killer weapons to destroy Earth completely. Admiral Dong Hyun arrived with what looked like a much larger fleet. But Captain Subin noticed something strange about the formation. The ships were positioned in a pattern she had never seen before. Sir, she asked over a private communication channel, what exactly are we doing here? Teaching a lesson, Admiral Dong Hyun replied. Both sides need to learn the same thing, that winning and destroying are not the same. When Elder Morden's ships arrived at the meeting point, they found what appeared to be a trap. Human ships were positioned all around them, in asteroid fields, behind moons, and in the shadows of space debris. It looked like the humans had lured the alien peace delegation into a carefully planned ambush. This is treachery, Admiral Zeflon said from his ship. He had come to the peace talks as a prisoner, but now he was furious. They pretend to want peace, but they plan to attack us. Elder Morden was calmer, but just as concerned. Admiral Dong Hyun, he said over the communication system. Explain the meaning of this formation. With respect, Elder Morden, Admiral Dong Hyun replied. This is exactly what our military doctrine required. My officers planned this operation to ensure complete victory over your delegation. Captain Subin felt her heart sink. Had the Admiral been lying about wanting peace? Were they really here to destroy the alien ships? However, Admiral Dong-hyun continued, I am choosing not to follow that plan. With those words, the human ships began to power down their weapons and move into a peaceful formation. Instead of attacking, they were revealing themselves and offering trust. You see, Admiral Dong-hyun explained to the surprised aliens, we could destroy your ships right now. Our way of fighting would demand it. But we are choosing a different way. Elder Morden understood immediately. You are showing us that humans can choose mercy, even when they have the power to destroy. And we hope, Admiral Dong-hyun said, that your people can choose to see us as potential allies instead of monsters. The peace talks that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of formal negotiations in a meeting room, the talks happened on ships flying side by side through space. Human and alien officers worked together, learning about each other's technology and culture. Technical Sergeant Chang Ho was assigned to teach Confederation officers about human military tactics. He was a patient man who had spent years training new soldiers, and he approached the aliens the same way he would approach confused recruits. The most important thing to understand, he told a group of alien officers, is that humans don't fight to be honorable. We fight to protect the people we care about. Commander Thelvan, a young Confederation officer, raised one of his four hands. But without honor, how do you prevent war from becoming simple murder? By choosing when to stop, Chang Ho replied. We could have destroyed your entire fleet, but we didn't. We could have killed your admiral, but we captured him instead. Honor isn't about following rules during a fight. Honor is about knowing when not to fight at all. Captain Subin was leading a joint patrol with alien officers, testing whether the two species could actually work together. Her ship flew alongside a Confederation vessel commanded by Lieutenant Kexila, a young alien who had lost friends in the war. I still don't understand your tactics, Kexila said during one of their practice missions. Why do you hide your ships? Why don't you announce your attacks? It seems dishonest. Let me ask you something, Subin replied. If a dangerous animal was hunting your family, would you challenge it to a fair fight? Or would you do whatever was necessary to protect them? Kexila thought about this for a long time. I would protect my family, she finally said. That's all we were doing, Subin said, protecting our family. The breakthrough came when Dr. Hana discovered something important about Confederation history. While studying their ancient records, she found evidence that the aliens hadn't always fought with honor codes. Elder Morden, she said during one of their meetings, your people used to fight the same way humans do now. Look at these battle records from 3,000 years ago. The old aliens studied the ancient documents with growing amazement. These are from the time of chaos, he said. Quietly, we don't speak of those days. Your people learned to fight with honor because you were tired of the chaos, Dr. Hana said. You created rules to make war less destructive, but humans never had that luxury. On Earth, chaos never ended. Elder Morden began to understand. So you learned to embrace the chaos instead of controlling it. We learned to use it, Dr. Hana agreed. But maybe now we can learn something from your way too. The real test came when both fleets received an emergency signal from the edge of the galaxy. A species called the Devourers was attacking Confederation worlds, using technology and tactics that the aliens couldn't counter. They fight like you do, Admiral Zephlon told Admiral Dong-hyun during an emergency meeting. No rules, no honor, no mercy. Our forces are being destroyed. Admiral Dong-hyun looked at the reports of the Devourer attacks and felt cold. These enemies were everything the aliens thought humans were. Brutal, efficient, and completely without mercy. They're not fighting like us, he said after studying the data. They're fighting worse than us. We fight to protect. They fight to destroy everything. Will you help us? Elder Morden asked. I know we have been enemies, but we're not enemies anymore, Admiral Dong-hyun said firmly. Captain Subin, Prepare a joint task force. Technical Sergeant Chang Ho, I want you training Confederation forces in human tactics immediately. The combined human-alien fleet that headed toward the Devourer invasion was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Confederation ships provided advanced technology and firepower, while human officers provided tactical expertise and ruthless efficiency. Captain Subin commanded a mixed crew of humans and aliens, and she was amazed at how well they worked together once they understood each other. Kexila, use your ship's shields to protect the human fighters, she ordered during their first battle against the Devourers. Chang Ho, coordinate the boarding assault with the Confederation Marines. The battle was brutal, but the combined fleet was victorious. Human tactics allowed them to outmaneuver the Devourers, while alien technology allowed them to survive the counterattack. After the victory, Lieutenant Kexila approached Captain Subin with something like wonder in her large eyes. I understand. Now, she said, when you fight without rules, you're not being dishonorable. You're being practical. And when you fight with honor, Subin replied, you're not being weak. You're being civilized. The war between humans and the Confederation officially ended 6 months later, but the real result was something much more important, the beginning of a partnership that would change the galaxy. Human officers began training Confederation forces in practical combat tactics, while alien scientists taught humans about advanced technology and galactic diplomacy. Technical Sergeant Chang Ho became the head of the new Joint Military Academy, where soldiers from dozens of species learned to fight together. Captain Subin was promoted to admiral and given command of the galaxy's first integrated fleet, with ships and crews from dozens of different worlds. Elder Morden lived to see the day when human and alien children played together on Confederation worlds, and alien children learned about Earth's dangerous animals with fascination instead of fear. The Devourers were eventually defeated by the combined forces of the galaxy, but more importantly, the victory proved that different species could work together if they understood each other. Admiral Dong Hyun, now retired, often spoke to young officers about the lessons of the war. We learned that there are many ways to fight, he would tell them. The aliens' way preserved civilization. Our way preserved life. Both were necessary and both were right in their place. The most important rule we learned, he would conclude, was that sometimes the best way to win a war is to make your enemies into friends. And in the end, that was exactly what humanity and the Confederation had done. They had turned a war that could have destroyed both species into the foundation of a new kind of galactic civilization, one where strength and honor could exist together. The galaxy was a safer place because humans had learned when to show mercy, and aliens had learned when to fight without rules, but most importantly,